Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live. We have such a great guest for you today. I love this woman. She has touched me in ways that she doesn't even know. My husband met Christine Eberle while he was working at Gwynedd Mercy. Actually, I think the first time we met you might have been when one of our girls was at Westchester. I feel like there was a connection there. Wow. Yeah, I feel like there was a connection there. But my husband met Christine while he and she were working at Gwynedd Mercy, and she is a godly woman who has a way of putting it in the real world that is just so authentic and kind and wonderful. And I want to talk about her book, but I first of all just want to welcome you, Christine, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mary Fran. Thank you, Kristen.
We're so happy to have you here. So I said that we met, through Gwynedd. So give us a little bit of your background and then where you are now, and then we'll kind of get into the whole reset, rise, and reveal thing and figure out where that fits into your life.
Sure. So I worked as a campus minister in higher education for 26 years. Wow. I was, as you said, at Westchester at their Newman Center for 11 years, and then I became the director of campus ministry at Gwynedd Mercy University for 15 years. That is a career I never really thought I would leave, and yet just about a year ago, I stepped down to pursue an existence. I call it being a freelance me.
I love that.
I know people keep asking you what you want to be when you grow up. I said I want to be a freelance me. Let me come be me for you for a little while, like we're doing right now. Uh-huh. And so I'm writing. I pre-coronavirus was doing a lot of retreats and mornings and evenings of reflection and speaking opportunities, and now I'm doing a lot on Zoom. Zoom retreats and other things, and writing more. So. That's me right now.
Well, like I said, I've watched you over the years, and I have your book, which I absolutely love. First of all, I love the cover of this. It's called Finding God in Ordinary Time. I don't know if this is everybody can see that. The cover of this makes me calm. Like I just look at it and I go, ah. But the thing that I love about this book is how you have taken little stories and incidents that have happened in your life and then turns them into a reflection. I think I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, though, because that's what's just happened. So let's back up a little bit and talk about, like I said, we talk about a reset, rise, and a reveal. Do you feel like was there a period in your life that you felt like, you had a sucker punch or a train wreck and stuff happened and you were like, whoa, like what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. So yes, that would be my 40s. There was a 7-year window when I lost in declining age order, my grandmother, both my parents, my cousin Susan, and my 19-year-old cat. Now, I know, yeah. Now, obviously, different levels of trauma connected to different losses, but Mom and Susan in particular. Mom was a 67-year-old high school teacher. She taught religion at Monsignor Bonner High School.
Oh, wow.
And she was taken out by a swiftly moving cancer that took her about less than 10 weeks from her diagnosis.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awful.
Like she fully intended to go back to school in September and instead she died. Like, And Susan, who was my age, had been my best friend since the playpen, was diagnosed when we were 42 with a stage 4 glioblastoma that she fought for 4 years, which is twice as long as most people do. And she died right after we turned 46.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so any illusion that I had that time was infinite, blown out of the water. Like we all know we're going to die someday, but we managed to keep that at bay for much of our lives, because if it was right here, we'd be paralyzed.
We'd lose our minds. Yeah.
Right. But that really was a wake-up call, because, they both really loved their lives and what they were doing. But of course, they also had things on their someday list, as we all do.
Oh,
And yet someday never came. And it really made me start thinking about, and this was right around the time I was turning 50, my mom had 73 days from diagnosis to death. And so the expression I used for myself is a 73-day shot clock. It's very rare that I would use an athletic metaphor.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. If I got my own 73-day shot clock, would I feel like I had really done what God put me on this earth to do?
Wow.
And even though I loved my job and I was good at it, I wasn't comfortable with the answer to that question. I knew there were things that I wanted to do that I wasn't getting to. And yet it was a much lesser loss that sort of propelled me into the next phase. And that's when a colleague, someone I supervised, someone who I had a great working relationship with, walked into my office and resigned. She was in a long distance relationship and she did not want it to be long distance anymore. And was gonna, walk away in the middle of a semester to pursue a dream.
Wow.
Huh.
And you went, who is this crazy person and what is she thinking and why do I not think like that?
Right. And I mean, I reacted badly. But the next morning, I really did wake up thinking, I don't have to do this forever. The fact that I'm good at it and even enjoying it doesn't mean that I have to do it forever. And so that kind of unleashed something in me. And pretty soon thereafter, an email came across for a 24-hour retreat at the Cranaleith Spirituality Center up in the Somerton section.
Yeah, I know right where that is. Yep.
Great place. The retreat was called New Life Directions for Women Over 50.
Wow.
And I was 51. And it was 24 hours on weekdays in September, time when traditionally no one in education takes a day off.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, yep, sign me up. And it was a wonderful 24 hours. We spent a lot of time in a lot of different creative ways trying to get in touch with our dream, for me, that freelance me existence. And the very last activity we did, they said, try to figure out what is one thing you can do in the next 2 weeks to move your dream forward.
Huh.
And I had already started compiling a list on my phone of people I was referring to as wisdom figures, people women who were doing the kind of things I wanted to do. And I said, okay, in the next 2 weeks, I can schedule, not actually have, but schedule a get together with 2 people on that list. Just pick 2. Okay. And I did. I sent out the emails. I scheduled beer and pizza. One in October.
Good combo.
Yeah, with Liz Small and with Eileen Flanagan. And we talked about dreams and writing and programs and freelancing. So that was thing 1 that I did. Thing 2 that I did was give my dream a name.
I love that.
Yeah, I was 51. I started a file on my computer called Plan 54. And with the goal of, okay, 3 years from now, can I make the shift? Can I plan to make the shift when I'm 54? I figured 3 years was probably enough time to put into place the things that I would need to do. And so I started that folder on my computer and I started doing things. I started a blog and then I started a website and then I started sort of promoting myself a little bit. Mm-hmm. So those were kind of the 2 things. And what they both had in common was that I started saying yes to more and more things. Shonda Rhimes has that great book, My Year of Yes.
Uh-huh.
This is kind of what that felt like, except I didn't get rich or famous.
Why don't they ever put that part in those books,
Right. Well, she might have been rich and famous already. So, but so this beer and pizza with Liz Small. Liz forwarded me in December a Facebook sweepstakes to spend 4 nights at a writer's retreat in Vermont.
Mm.
And so I said yes. I entered the sweepstakes, and I won, as I think many people did until their rooms were full. Because it's a retreat in Vermont in February with no skiing. But so I went, and the invitation was to bring a writer friend. So I brought Eileen Flanagan.
Mhm.
And spent these 4 nights, and I dragged out a manuscript that I had started working on and abandoned years earlier when the editor I was working with said, I just cannot, I like what you've sent, I have no idea how to market it. And I was like, all right. My idea was for a book called Finding God in Advent. I was going to make it a nice little Advent resource. I get up to this writer's retreat, secular writer's retreat, that just happened to be attended at the time by a remarkably interfaith group of people. We have these hash sessions at night, and I started reading chapters. And they started saying, this doesn't sound like an Advent book to us. What do you people know about Advent? You know? I mean, we're talking like, you know, evangelical Christian and Hindu and Jewish agnostic. Okay. And what one of them finally said to me is, if this becomes an Advent book, it's going to be for sale in tiny little Catholic bookstores where people like us will never see it.
Yeah.
That's not the plan.
Right. And so I joked, well, then if it's not an Advent retreat, what am I going to call it? Finding God in Ordinary Time?
Hello.
And there it is. And there it is.
And there it is.
I love it.
Yeah. So by the end of that 4 nights, it turns out that they had a juried writing competition called Pitch Week that I got invited to participate in, which got me an editor and a fantastic cover designer and a deadline, which it turns out is incredibly useful when you're trying to do a big project.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and I did not win the sweepstakes, but the publisher, who was one of the judges, wanted to publish the book anyway, which is quite enough of a win for me.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh.
That's fantastic.
So, I first of all, I just loved everything you said, and you hit the reset, rise, and the reveal of your brilliance all in one fell swoop there. So I'm going to go back and pick apart little pieces of this. And the one thing that really I just totally loved is that you said, just because I'm good at this and just because I like doing it doesn't mean I have to do it forever.
Right.
I love that, because I feel like so many people think, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm good at doing this. I'm reaching people. I'm touching people. But there's always that little tug that they have, and they ignore it because they feel like, well, I'm doing some good, so this is where I should stay.
Right.
And I think that good people sometimes tend to ignore their dreams because they feel like if they're in service, then that should be enough for me. I should be content. But we don't have to be content with one form of service. We can move on to others and still fulfill that, you know, whatever God's plan is for us or what our dream is for ourselves.
Right. I'm good at logistics. I'm good at spreadsheets. Like,
yeah, I don't want to do that.
Right. And so what I've started asking myself, and actually this is something I said for years as I was supervising people. When it comes time to triage your to-do list, do what only you can do.
I love that. I'm writing this down. Triage your to-do list and do only what you can do.
Only you can do. And so, you know, in administration, you know, because I worked in administration for a long time, you know, if I'm writing something critical, you know, or planning a big something that's about to happen, and the copier runs out of toner, there are a lot of people who can change the toner. You know?
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to write what I'm writing. You know, and so that has become a useful measure for me. Is this something that God has really put it on me that I am the one to do, or that only I can do. That I have a fabulous successor running the campus ministry office at Gwynedd. He's not going to write my next book. And
Well, and that brings up an interesting point, because sometimes I think we don't go beyond our sphere of where our head is at, and we don't realize that by our leaving, sometimes we're giving someone else an opportunity to do what they are called to do while
yes,
we move on to other things.
absolutely. And I'm, like I said, I'm good at logistics. Like I am the person you want to hire if you want things to kind of go off without a hitch, but sometimes you need a hitch. Like sometimes you just need a new creative perspective and energy. And that's not what I was bringing. I was bringing a lot of dogged determination and a lot of institutional memory and a lot of the way it's always been done, but sometimes you need a new voice and a new perspective, and that can be good for another person. It could be good for an institution.
As my husband says, it allows you to be successful elsewhere. Like when people leave jobs, he'll say, this is your opportunity to be successful elsewhere. And to recognize that, again, I just love that. Just because you're super good at something and you've had a good run, doesn't mean that run has to be endless.
Right. Yeah.
So look at change.
Right.
It's reminding me of a couple of things. First of all, that you're saying about, okay, it's going along good. I think we tend to, I know for me, get stuck in the, well, it's good enough. My life is good enough. Why would I sit here and complain? I should be grateful for the good enough. And for me, it's actually painful to move on to the, okay, but it could be so much better. I was made for more. That's what Tiffany Smiley's group is, made for more, that there's more that's been placed in my heart. So I have to go after that. But we just get so safe in the, it's good enough. Why would I complain?
Right. And, not every dream is doable,
right,
or doable in the moment. We have genuine responsibilities and commitments, and people are counting on us and all that. But it's worth exploring. It's worth asking the question. Questions are wonderful and scary and open doors. But it's worth asking the question.
You also talked about do the stuff that only you can do. And Mary Fran and I just went through this this mission has exploded, right? So there's all these places that we want to reach people and do all these things. And then we had to do we had a whole Come to Jesus Zoom meeting, her and I, just 2 weeks ago, saying we are so good at these couple of things. Let's just stick there, because we weren't serving anybody well when we're trying to be in 17 lanes. So let's hold on to 2 of them and see if somebody else maybe can help us with the other pieces. But we were only us can do these certain things really, really well. And let's find other people. And it's just so funny, because I'm sitting here thinking, man, you said shot clock. I'm the sports chick in this whole thing, right? Then you're talking about beer and pizza. I'm like, we are going to be best friends. I went to Westchester. I'm coming to your house. We are best friends. And then you say spreadsheets and logistics. I'm like, oh. That is not the art for me.
That is not Kristen's strong suit, logistics.
We'll balance each other well in our best friends.
There you go. There you go. So I want to move on, because we could talk to you all day, but I really want to talk about this book, because I have read this book and I read it over and over again, because the stories.
Tell us the format of it. What's the format of the book?
So it is 4 weeks of daily meditations on true stories. I start with the premise that the Finding God in the title is a shout out to St. Ignatius of Loyola, who said we can find God in all things. And so I sort of take us through week by week 4 what I call terrains, where we can experience the presence of God kind of hidden in plain sight. And so I go through the wonders of the created world and surprising encounters with strangers and disorienting experiences of travel and those kind of poignant moments of life transition. And in each of them, they're really little daily mass homilies. Okay. because it starts with a scripture quote, and then there's a true story, and then there's a little musing on lessons learned, a little spiritual insight, and a couple of questions for personal reflection. And it's about 600 words. Is that not a perfect daily mass homily?
It is. And can you put that in some kind of course so that they'll all just follow that routine, please? Please.
Mary Fran, not that that's a trigger for her.
Not that that bothers me. But you're right. And the beauty of this, and each one of these stories, like, okay, finding God in the cafeteria. I mean, really? And yet, yes, you can find God in the cafeteria. I mean, the titles of these things, just finding God in a flowered house dress.
Stop it. Really?
Somebody that you encountered, right? Messengers of grace. Finding God at the campsite. I mean, they're such delightful pieces, and they're little pieces, and you read them quickly, but it changes your perspective in such a way that, I mean, gosh, I can find God in this cafeteria. I can find God in that crazy lady that I tend to ignore because I think she's a crazy lady. And yet, you know, there she is, and maybe there's a piece of God in that. And to me, even if you take the religious spin out of it per se, it's about finding beauty and finding connection in these things that we just blow through because we're on our way to something else.
Right. It's about noticing. You know,
Yeah.
One of the stories, the one about the seals, finding God in plain sight, I think it's called. I was in La Jolla, California, early one morning, drinking a cup of coffee, looking out at the beach and all those rocks on the beach. And it took me 45 minutes to realize they weren't rocks. They were sea lions. Like, and they woke up and started moving, and I was, whoa.
What?
Yeah, and
that's hilarious. The rocks.
that's a dramatic example, but really everything in the book is about noticing something that it would be easy to overlook.
It's just
I love
so
it.
Delightful.
Well, here's a amusing thing. Right before it came out, I don't understand Amazon at all. I don't understand their rankings. There's a lot I don't understand. Right before it came out, Amazon called it. Are you ready for this? This goes in the category, there's no such thing as bad publicity. The #1 new release in religious humor.
What?
I was like, okay, there's 4 mothers with cancer in these 28 chapters. Like,
Oh my God.
this is not a book of Jesus knock-knock jokes.
Jesus, knock-knock jokes.
You know what? Like, I hope no one bought it on the strength of that and was disappointed. But okay, all right. So, but
Well,
you know,
how many people are buying funny religious books anyway? So I think you're safe there. But they should have categorized it better because it's just
Amazon is bizarre like that. That's funny. You know, it's interesting because 2 things just hit my heart so hard that my oldest son and my 2 boys are blind. And over these 20 years, me and my sighted daughter have always had to stop and notice everything because we have to describe it to them. And we have had conversations about everything. Sometimes I'm like, can we just shut up and I tell you what's happening and can we move on? But they want to know details and describe. And it tends to bring out 2 sides of something you're looking at, like finding a God in a moment, or, you know, also negative sides. Like, we've really explored things that we've looked at by having to describe. But interestingly enough, just the other day, I've just been going through something, and my oldest son went through something not that long ago. And we were talking about, he and I are so similar. Do we constantly only see the good, and acting like that was a negative? And then after about, an hour or so, I'm like, wait a minute. I think it would be against our grain to only be, to stop looking for the good and to put a guard up, and this whole conversation is just, it's one of those things, like those moments where it's sealing my mind that we were on the right track, to stop, not to stop looking for good and looking for God, that's how we've gotten so far. And done so well without crawling up in a ball and crying in the corner with some of the sucker punches in life. But I'm just sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, this is one of those moments of this is happening just at the right time. And you're saying all these things that, including seals getting up and rocks getting up and walking away.
That's the funniest thing. I love that story. I read that. But you know what? That just goes to the point that it's right in front of you. Like it's right there. It's literally sitting right in front of you. And because we're always in a rush to get on to the next thing, and sometimes even when we're not in a rush, I mean, you were sitting there having a cup of coffee and just looking out, but we don't see.
Yeah.
We don't see what's right in front of us because there's a part of our mind and our hearts that we need to consciously open to what's out there.
Like put what we are experiencing, what we know on it, and don't look at it for what it is. It's okay. That's
right.
A rock. I've seen a million rocks. That's a rock. Till the rock walks away. But that's an interesting metaphor that, wait a minute, you know, you make an assumption. You make an assumption of what you're looking at as opposed to really looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love La Jolla, California too. It's gorgeous.
So it's just a beautiful book, and I love the fact that you, even at a certain age, we tend to put these age restrictions on ourselves. Well, I've already, I've had my career, I've done this, and I'm towards the end of being productive. No, there is no end of being productive. That doesn't stop until you breathe your last, as far as I'm concerned. But I love the fact that you went after a dream and that you named it. That was the other thing that you did that struck me. Yeah. You named your dream.
Plan 54. And I stepped down from my position at Gwynedd 3.5 weeks after my 54th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So, all right. So I can't believe our half hour is pretty much up already, because we try to cram so much in, and we can always have these conversations go on and on and on and on. But I want everybody to know where they can find you, where they can reach out, where they can find this beautiful book, because everyone should have it. It is on my nightstand. It is, because I will pick it up at night, and you just need that moment where I need to settle after a day, and this is the perfect book to do that. So tell everybody where they can reach you, Christine.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that my website involves hyphens, but here it goes. So it's Christine-Marie-Eberle.com, and we'll just hold that up. Those people,
I love it.
And that's my website, and I've got so you can order my book through there. You can order my book anywhere. That's how books work these days. But if you order it through my website, I can personalize it for you and send it to you, which is always nice. It's also available as as an ebook, so you can put it on your Kindle. And on my website, I've been writing a blog for years. You can sign up for my newsletter, which comes out maybe monthly. And you can see how to hire me for various things. Like I said, I'm starting to do a lot of Zoom things now. Here's just a wonder of the coronavirus era. I'm slated to give 5 retreats in the coming 9 months or so for a retreat center in Washington State.
Oh my gosh. And you'll do it from home. And
I'll do it from my kitchen. 2-hour retreats. So I'm doing things for them. I'm doing a couple of things for schools, and really learning how to work with this Zoom format to try to give people meaningful content, as you are, in a different way.
Hey, and on the Zoom format, you don't have to dry or brush the back of your hair. I love it. It saves me so much time. Now I'm going out in the real world.
As long as it's good from here up, and this front part, it's fine.
The laundry,
nobody knows.
That is the Zoom life.
Yep, that back of the hair thing did occur to me about an hour ago. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, you have just given us so much delightful wisdom and such a great conversation today. And I do urge everybody to go out and get that book, Finding God in Ordinary Time. It's beautiful. Everybody, please check out Christine. She, if you have not gathered by now, is someone that you want in your tribe.
That'd be cooking me for you for a little while.
Reach out, find her, and thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you tomorrow with another episode of Brilliantly Resilient Live.
Yeah. Thanks, you too.